Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk, and here I have the Samsung Omnia Pro, this one being the B7610. We obviously saw the 7330 last week, which was also an Omnia Pro, so slightly confusing there, but 7610 being the one with the slide-out QWERTY keyboard. We can just do a quick unbox for you now. As I mentioned before, Samsung really liking their Omnia brand name, so kind of using that quite a lot with their devices that are coming out at the moment. So the device sits immediately on top, and we'll look at that in a bit more detail in just a moment once we've finished looking at what else we have in the box. So we have a Get Started disc with ActiveSync and Mobile Device Center on it. Then we have the user manual, which is quite chunky. They have a spare stylus in there and the international warranty card. We then have the battery, which is a 1500 milliamp hour battery there, as we can see. Quite a large battery, in fact. Put that to one side, we're going to need that in a moment. We then have a wired headset, which fortunately is of the 3.5mm jack variety. So we have a 4-pole 3.5mm jack on one end, have a length of cable, and then an inline microphone with a push button. There's no volume control though. Actually, the microphone is slightly further up there. It's a small block further up near the actual headphones themselves, and the headphones, probably commented on these in the past, the Samsung headphones are pretty good. They're real in-ear style, quite weighty and pretty decent, so you have the opportunity to use these obviously if you want to have a wired headset and headphones. They are pretty good, but if you want to use your own headphones with the handset, you can do so because it's a standard 3.5mm socket, so that's pretty good. You then have the charger, which is a micro USB style charger, pretty standard. And then finally we have a standard USB to micro USB sync charge cable. That's connecting up to your PC for synchronizing and transferring music and so on to and from the handset. So looking at the device itself, pretty nice looking handset on immediate inspection. And if I just peel off the screen protector on the front so we can see it a little bit more clearly without the air bubbles. Do have a forward facing VGA camera, which is quite good. Some of the newer devices are coming out without that now, so that does have that. Then we have a 3.5-inch touchscreen display, which is 480 by 800 pixels WVGA. It's also an AM OLED display, so going to be pretty bright and clear, but we'll look at that in just a second when we power up. Below that we have the phone keys, so the send and end phone keys, that one obviously doubling up as a power button, and then a button in the centre which is basically just like a menu button or select button, depending on the context. A couple of sensors up the top are ambient light and proximity sensor. Looking down the left hand side, we have an up and down volume control rocker. Then we have another button marked W and L, which is a work and life mode button. I think that's for actually changing around the home screen and everything else for work mode and home mode, if you like, so that's quite cool. Little eye hole on the bottom, not really sure what that's for. It's not an eyelet, I don't think, but moving on. Small hole on the bottom there is for the microphone. Up on the right hand side, you have a dedicated camera button, a lock button, and a small reset button. No stylus actually in place, so the stylus that we saw already isn't a spare stylus, it's actually the main stylus, which is kind of unusual. You normally get a spare, but that's not in place, but that would go there. Swinging around to the top of the unit, we have a cover over the micro USB sync and charge socket, and then another cover over the 3.5mm headphone jack. I would imagine that one of those is going to break off pretty soon because they feel kind of fragile, and from experience with other Samsung handsets, they tend not to last terribly long, but nice to have covers over them if you're not going to use them. Stops dust getting into the handset. On the back we have a 5-megapixel autofocus camera, and it does have a couple of LEDs underneath for acting as a flash. There is no mirror for taking your self-portraits, but the back is quite shiny, so if you want to take pictures of yourself, I'm sure you could achieve that with your reflection in the back. I'm just going to peel off the screen, the back cover protector there, because it's kind of in the way. And if you can see there on the video, at certain angles it's kind of black on the back, and when the light hits it just right, it is like this reddish colour. We've seen this on a couple of the other Samsung handsets, and it's kind of stylish and quite cool. It just makes the back a little bit more interesting, so that's quite nice. And I think overall, an attractive looking handset. If we just pop the back cover off then, carefully like so. Our micro SD card goes here, so we do have to remove the back cover in order to access that. And then obviously the SIM card just goes in space here. Clearly having to remove the SIM card in order to, or remove the battery in order to get to the SIM card, but that's both normal and desirable. And you do obviously have to remove the back cover, as I say, to get to the micro SD card. So the back cover pops on like so, quite easy. The large grill at the bottom is for the like loudspeaker or the ringer, and that's quite big, so I'd imagine that'd be quite good. Comment on that when we come to the review. Obviously, the other feature of this handset is the sliding keyboard. Doesn't tilt, as you might find on various other devices that we've seen in the past, like the Touch Pro 2 and the Titan 2. But it is a similar sort of mechanism, it's spring-loaded. And then we have a 4-row keyboard, full QWERTY, and they are quite large keys, as you can probably see there. Very generous. I think they're probably among the largest keys for a QWERTY of this style. And they do look quite good. They're quite positive. They have a nice sort of click to them when you press them without being too loud or being too sort of tacky. They are quite good. The numeric keys are part of a shift function along the top row. So if you want to dial a number, you can do so by using the shift and tapping along the top row. Symbol keys, and there looks like a menu button there also on the keyboard. But certainly a decent looking keyboard, and I think you'd be able to type reasonably fast with 2 thumbs on that keyboard, so that looks quite good. So let's just swing round and power up. And while we wait for that to turn on, just run down quickly the specification. Windows Mobile 6.5 Professional, obviously because it's touchscreen. We have an 800 MHz processor. This one has 1 gig of internal memory or ROM that we can use for storage, which can be expanded using obviously the micro SD card, which according to the spec we've just seen supports up to 32 gig micro SD HD memory. We only have 256 meg of RAM according to the spec, and there seems to be a little bit of discrepancy over the specs that you can find on the web. Some sites claiming only 128 and others claiming 256, and even Samsung's site is a little bit unclear, but we do believe it's 256 meg of RAM. Quad band for GSM and dual band for HSDPA, so it means it'll pretty much roam wherever you take it throughout the world and work no problem at all. Does support Edge, GPRS and 3G, HSDPA, all the connectivity methods there. Wireless LAN 802.11b and G, Bluetooth 2 with A2DP support, and as I've already mentioned, the micro SD up to 32 gig. Integrated GPS with a GPS, and it's just asking me to tap to set up. And we'll align the screen. We'll try and get away with using our fingers rather than resorting to the stylus, and we've got away with that. Does seem quite sensitive. I've only touched the screen a couple of times, but I'm not pressing very hard, so it seems to be working quite well. And each time I touch the screen, there is a small vibrate from inside, a slightly haptic feedback. So when we start up, we have the sort of standard widget arrangement, as is very common on the Samsung handsets. A widget bar down the side that allows us to add the various widgets in, which is just turned off. Turn that back on. Various widgets down the side that we can add onto the display. And we have 3 panels worth of display, so we can swipe across and we can set up 3 screens worth of widgets. None actually set up at the moment, as you can see there. It's just telling me that I don't have a SIM card. Panel along the bottom that's already open, so we have one for messaging, which shows our messaging inbox. We come back out of there. Next one is My Files, and that's nicely skinned rather than being the standard Windows Mobile style file manager. That's nicely skinned by Samsung there. We'll come back out of there. Then we have media, the media player, nothing set up on there at the moment, obviously. Come back out of there. Then we have the FM radio, We do have built-in FM radio with RDS support, which is quite good. It's probably not going to work because it will require me to have my headphones plugged in, which obviously I don't. And then finally we have photos, and it's already got a couple obviously on the ROM there. We'll skip out of there, but you get the idea. We go into the phone menu, and we have a nice phone dialer, again skinned quite nicely. And where we have these colours, they are very vibrant thanks to that AMO LED display. So they are nice and clear. And even in the bright conditions that we're recording in, kind of in a no-wind situation, because we want to have it bright enough so you can see the handset. And obviously being bright, then obviously the display's a bit shiny, but even with the bright conditions you can see the display quite nicely, and there is some reflection, but you can still see through it quite nicely, which is unusual for an AMO LED display. They tend to be slightly less effective in bright conditions, but this one's working quite nicely. Also got a phone book setting on the other side, but haven't got anybody set up at the moment because obviously just set it up and turned on. And if we're going to start, we have the pretty standard Windows Mobile 6.5 honeycomb arrangement of the icons. Obviously we have Opera browser in there, have email, icon, settings menu, streaming media, Java, pretty standard looking stuff, games and smart search, Office Mobile. Obviously the marketplace is already installed, which is good. Active Sync, Google Maps, Mode Manager, and MSN Weather. So all pretty standard stuff to see in there. And we have internet sharing, which I've just managed to accidentally click on. Let's just go back in there and go into the settings menu, which has been skinned, so that's quite nice. Again, that's a fairly typical Samsung style screen with the settings for sound, display, general phone, motion settings, security, and then we can scroll to network and memory settings. All very nice. Quite nice, nicely arranged. If we open up the keyboard, kind of was expecting that to rotate the display. Yes, it has. It's just a little bit slow. And if we do it back, yeah, there's certainly a little bit of lag in the rotate there. Not terrible. Don't know if you're going to really worry about the second that it takes to rotate the display, but there is a slight amount of lag there, sort of worth pointing out. And obviously we can press just the phone key at the bottom to go straight into the phone dialer. As I say, the touchscreen is extremely sensitive and the display does look really quite nice. Quickly just mention the last few bits of specification. This does have a TV out capability with a cable that you would have to purchase extra. The 5 megapixel camera does look to be quite reasonable. Actually, let's just launch the camera app and see what that looks like. Okay. And let's put something thrillingly exciting in the field of view, the cable, and I assume that's just going to work either with the touch. There's the button. Okay, so it's a two-stage camera button, so that we press it halfway to set the focus, and again to take the picture, which it has done so. So yeah, pretty standard camera interface there, nothing terribly out of the ordinary. We'll just close that out of there. We'll take some sample pictures and put them up with the review itself. Dimensions, 112 millimeters from top to bottom, almost 58 millimeters wide, and just over 16 millimeters thick. It's a fairly chunky handset, not ever so heavy. It doesn't feel ever so heavy. 159 grams. Well, that suggests that it's a heavier device than it certainly feels. It's on par with the Titan 2 and Touch Pro 2 in terms of weight. I think it's quite an attractive looking device, as I've mentioned a couple of times. Display, awesome. I can see here, just in the few minutes been using it, it's very bright. Colours are fantastic. AMO LED is definitely the way forward. So we're going to be doing a review of the Samsung Omnia Pro B7610 over the next couple of weeks. Full review on site for you very soon, as soon as we've finished with that. And our thanks to Super Trader for supplying the review handset, and you can actually pick these up. They're in stock at the moment on Super Trader, so if you want to place an order, head over. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We are Tracy and Matt on Twitter, and also on Facebook. We are tracyandmatt.co.uk, our fan page on facebook.com, and we're running a couple of competitions at the moment, so Twitter and Facebook are featuring quite heavily in those. So please follow us. Details are on either end of the video with the intro and the outro. And if you missed any of those details, just check out those intro and outro pages. And as I say, the review will be on site in the next couple of weeks.